Thank you for coming. I see some of you took the handout already. If you didn't get one, I'll hand them out in a moment. But before we do that, what I would love to do, but we're not going to have time to do, but it's always my practice to follow the rule of connection before content. So normally I would go around the room and you all introduce yourselves, but aware that we have to finish by 11 so that we can get inside for the religious school assembly. We're going to forego that to do another sort of get-to-know-you exercise, this one without names, however. I do this with our teenagers all the time. It's called a card pass. I'm going to hand you an index card and a golf pencil so you all have the exact same card and the exact same colored writing implement, so we'll never know who wrote what you wrote. And I'm going to ask you to write on the card, the side with the lines, the question or the challenge that you find with this issue of interfaith families, of December dilemma, the challenges of this time of year. The question you came that was burning inside of you as to why you came today. And then I'm going to collect all the cards. I'm going to shuffle them up. I'm going to hand them back around. We're all going to read them. And as long as you don't say, hey, I got my own, we will never know that it was yours, but you will get a chance just to hear the commonality that I know exists in this room. The shared experience, the shared anxiety, and also, I think, the shared insight. So on the card, write either the question or the motivation for why you came today to this session. What it is that drew you here, or if there's a question that you're trying to answer, then share that as well. So I'll pass these cards around. And then I'll hand some golf pencils and we'll take one and pass them around. Probably not the best way to hand golf pencils, but figure it out. Here, I'll tell you. I've sat in that chair, tried to get up. There you go.
We were away, but she shadowed someone. I've met How did she? She really likes it.
Both, but mostly baseball.
No. That's why
Rabbi, Dan, I need to tell you about my husband's plan for the summer. Speaking of
Does it involve traveling to various baseball parks? Would you like a
All along
rabbi
the East
to?
Coast.
Oh.
God, I can't wait for you to meet my dad.
Sure,
He's
he'd love
such
you
a
to join.
baseball.
Yeah, so you can negotiate that with Sharon. That would be terrific.
Well, just him and Matthew.
Here, I'll
are
take the
working a
pencils if you've
separate
got
girls'
them.
trip, so
Oh, okay.
she can join us.
I'm just going to turn down the heat because I think it's
Please do.
Oh, thank you.
a little toasty. Slightly.
You're a writer.
I do love this card.
And once you've got your card done, just hold it up, and I'll take it and your pencil. Thank you. That's why I limited to an index.
Thank you.
We spend all year wishing there was sun and then it's in our eyes.
You have to be prepared.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anybody else? Nope. Memento.
I'm supposed to do it last.
Thank you. Did I get everybody's card?
Oh, Oh, not yet, sorry.
No, okay, still working, that's fine.
Yeah.
Barry, how are you? So Barry, do you want to take a second? We're writing the question that brought us into the room, the thing we're struggling with,
That's relevant.
and then we'll shuffle it around. Hi, good morning, how are you?
Don't sit down.
Well, it needs a hand up here, Barry. Okay, you got it? Okay. So again, don't scream out, I got my own card. So I do this with our teenagers when we have to talk about a topic which is uncomfortable for them. We did it on our sexuality retreat, and it really elicits very honest, sort of unfiltered answers or questions. What? You're not supposed to say you got your
Oh,
own.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I
Now you don't.
I semi-heard
Mark's
you say
deducted.
that. I
It's a
failed.
Sunday morning and stuff.
Mark's deducted.
And it worked. Okay. So let's take a moment to go around and just share what's on your card. Remember, this is not the statement of the person who's holding the card, but a statement from somebody in this room. Evelyn.
My partner grew up with a Jewish mother and a Catholic father. We have raised our children with, in quotes, a bit of Christmas, celebrated at my in-laws. They are aging, I assume that's the parents, and we wonder what this will look like when they are no longer around or able to host.
Okay.
How to make Hanukkah feel as special as Christmas Day for my stepdaughter, who will be with her other non-Jewish family.
Mm.
Although we are not an interfaith family, our child has asked us if we can celebrate Christmas because he feels left out from the dominant cultural celebrations.
We hear 99% of time from late November, all Christmas songs ads like, how does one best allow kids to celebrate Christmas yet see Hanukkah as their primary holiday?
Okay.
When someone says something like, are you ready for Christmas? Or do you have your tree up yet? Should I bother to say something like, oh thanks, but I'm Jewish and I don't celebrate Christmas, I celebrate Hanukkah.
Okay.
How do I ensure for my kids the elements that they are Jewish and seeing at this time of year as my ex-wife starts to, who is a Jew by choice, starts to put up the elements of backup Christmas that she had before we got together.
Okay.
How to not get involved in the presents, buying Hanukkah presents so kids don't feel left out of the Christmas present scene.
Okay.
How to explain what I or we don't believe without dismissing what the other family believes or does.
Okay.
As an interfaith family member, how can I absorb and celebrate the customs of both Christmas and Hanukkah? And by way of introduction, I grew up in a family where my mother was a converted Christian, my father was Jewish.
Thank you. Let's come right here. Yeah.
How to share each parent's family traditions with the children without diminishing the value of the other parent's meaningful tradition.
Mm-hmm.
My kids hate Christmas. How do I get them to change this feeling? We have a Hanukkah party that they invite non-Jewish friends to, and we tell them they can take part in Christmas festivities. They still hate Christmas.
How do I incorporate my son's partner's non-Jewish customs into my life?
How do we celebrate the beauty of the season as a whole, but believe and cultivate our Jewish roots?
Should a born Jew or a Jew by choice feel guilty for watching Christmas movies, singing carols, etc.?
The more I explain to my 6-year-old that we don't celebrate Christmas, the more she yearns for it, talks about it, negotiates for it. Even when I spin Hanukkah with sparkly dreidels, pun intended, and gifts and crafts and decor, etc., it doesn't make a difference.
Can one truly have a dual identity? Is it not too confusing for the children?
How to deal with the competition between Jewish and non-Jewish grandparents.
I draw the line at outside Christmas lights, but do all other non-religious Christmas activities. How do I explain my perhaps irrational rationale?
Those that just joined us, I asked everybody to write the question that they came with, and we passed them around on cards. My guess is it has to be, yours is probably in here someplace. So I have no idea. Thank you so much for coming. No. Or just Google it. So I guess I'll start with, what a wonderful list. What an honest list. And there is no shame in these questions, because this is real. And look, under the best of circumstances, relationships are complicated because they involve other people, right? Add to that the element of dual or multi-faith traditions. And here I don't even necessarily mean from the theological perspective, because so much of these particular holidays, Hanukkah and Christmas, is cultural. And within that sort of cultural definition or bracket is really family tradition. That what we're talking about is not so much what people believe, but who they are. And that, when somebody's identity is challenged or invalidated or in conflict with another, that's really tough in any relationship. Let alone when you involve children or extended family and all of the the historical memory that goes into it. So thank you for these questions. I will do my best with you to try to work through as many of them as we can. I do want to point out the handout that I gave to you, because I think actually it speaks to a number of the questions that were being raised. On the front side that says the December Dilemma, it's a handout I've used for a number of years, and it's a collection of just sort of insights that I've gained. And there's a resource section down at the bottom to a couple of other web resources that you can go to that will also, especially this time of year, many of these Jewish educational sites have whole sections on this question. My Jewish Learning, for example, which is one of my favorites, has a whole December Dilemma section. It's where I got a lot of this material from. The other side raises an issue that I want to just kind of put front and forward first, which is how, I guess, not to be a Grinch or a humbug or whatever it is at this time of year. And I guess I want to start with saying that Christmas is a beautiful holiday. I mean, the music, many of which was written by Jews, the movies, the lights, these are beautiful things. And the question for us is, do we feel that it threatens ours or our children's Jewish identity? And my first sort of suggestion to all of you is to have more confidence. You're members of this synagogue, your kids, many of them are here in our school. Have more confidence in the Jewish identity that you've imparted to your children and that you are imparting to them. Of course they're going to like Christmas lights and Christmas music. I mean, you could almost say what's not to like. In the same way that I'm told that pepperoni pizza is very good and that she's very good. I've had them before. They're not bad. So there are things out there that are attractive, but that doesn't mean that just because one likes it, they will suddenly abandon all of the other things that you have sown seeds for through your Shabbos table and your Passover traditions with the special recipes that you do and the Haggadah that you've made and the way you act it out and the fact that you have break fast at grandparents' homes or here at the synagogue or the Hanukkah traditions that you have. There is lots of scaffolding that you have built around your child's Jewish identity. And if you feel that it's insecure, well, that's a great reason to belong to a synagogue, among many. But it's one blip, it's one moment in a calendar. And in my experience, that has not been what has led children from synagogue life or camp life, off into joining churches and all the other things. There have been other parts of it, and some of those you speak to here. So I guess where to start. Let me take sort of the low-hanging fruit of all this, which was, one of the questions was how to make Hanukkah special in competition with all that's going around at this time of year. So first, I think you know this, it's a minor holiday in the Jewish calendar. It's not even in the Torah. It's a rabbinic holiday. It was created with a wonderful message. Set aside the miracle of the oil for a moment, because I'm going to tell you in a moment that there is no Santa Claus in a Jewish version. But the holiday itself is a celebration of religious freedom. And it comes from this period of in historical time when the Jews, as has happened many times, were attacked by an outside army that wanted to force us to stop practicing our Judaism, or to bow down to idols. And in a revolt against that, the Jews fought back, miraculously, a small band of Maccabees against the great Greek Assyrian army. This is pre-Christian Assyrians, or Greeks, and reclaimed the temple and rededicated the sanctuary, which is where the Kotel, the Western Wall in Jerusalem is. So in that context, historically, it's a significant event. But in terms of sort of the theology of it, God wasn't added till later. When the rabbis looked at this and said, we can't celebrate a military holiday. We are always a small people who are never in charge and never have the armies around us that are our own. And so they inserted this miracle of oil story. It didn't happen or not. I don't know if any of it happened, but the miracle of oil was definitely added later. And so as to put some semblance of holiness, of God's sort of divine plan beyond the military victory into the holiday. And it's from that we get all of the rituals about oil. So the latkes and the sufganiyot, the jelly donuts, and all sorts of fried things and stuff. But that original message, that's why I asked you to set aside the message of the oil, that original message of a holiday of religious freedom, that everybody should be allowed to practice their religion, that is one worth celebrating. And in fact, it lends itself very nicely to a conversation about why you can also help other people celebrate Christmas. So the analogy that I use with, I have used for 20 years or so in the rabbinate, is that, and I use this with children a lot, but it works with adults too, is imagine your best friend is having a birthday. It wouldn't be a birthday if you didn't go to that party. It would not be their party. But it's not your party. Those aren't your gifts. You can help him play or her play with the gifts. You can, sit right next to them at the party. You can do all the games with them. And you make the party, but it's not your birthday, it's their birthday. And so it's that frame that I would encourage you to use as you celebrate Christmas in your extended families, even if that extended family is within the home. That to recognize that as a Jew, this isn't my holiday. But my Hanukkah tells me that everybody should be allowed to freely and joyfully celebrate their holiday. And my presence for grandpa and grandma, or for dad, or for mom, or the extended family of cousins and everything, that makes their holiday. And so I'm the gift. And that's a mitzvah. It is a mitzvah to help somebody else find joy. It's a great mitzvah. So I would start with that frame and see if that sort of helps deal with some of the competition piece of like, oh, am I cheating on being a Jew if I show up at a Christmas party? And I don't want to talk the whole time, so please stop me if you want clarifications, but I will try to hit your questions as we go. So back to the question of how to make Hanukkah special. And again, I think that we fail when we try to compete at Christmas. We just don't have we don't have the media budget to compete. But I'll tell you what we do in our home. Every child in our home has their own Hanukkah. By the way, it's a Hanukkah, not a menorah. Menorah is 7 branches. A Hanukkah was the ritual object created. This is how we know it wasn't a biblical holiday. Because in the Torah, there's a menorah. And after, when there was Hanukkah, they created this 9-branch candelabra. So every child in our family has their own Hanukkah, and it doesn't have to be the one they have for the rest of their lives. They make one every year. They find one at a gift show that we go to. A grandparent gives them one. They can change it up. They have their own. You can use those long fireplace matches, and every child can light their own Hanukkah. You can use longer candles, and they can do it. And look, if they singe a little bit of their arm hair off, it'll just remind them to be careful around fire. We have we put all our Hanukkah in our window, because the idea is that you're supposed to bring this light of religious freedom to the world. So we make a big deal out of it, and we acknowledge and we talk about that we live in a country where we can be free to do that. And there's very few countries in the world where Jews would feel comfortable putting their Hanukkah on the window, but in Canada, absolutely you can. And we have an electric one that we put in the window as well. I put lights on our house. I go and buy blue and white Christmas lights. It's the holiday of lights, yes.
Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
this is my exact question that wasn't written down.
Okay.
When we were members at a previous synagogue, the rabbi had said, like kids asked, can we put blue and white lights up in colors? And he said no, because then you're giving in to the Christmas whatever. And my kids, they don't know that, they weren't there, and they just say, well, why can't we have blue and white lights for Hanukkah? And I was like, well, that's a good question, we'll ask Rabbi Dan.
It's the festival of lights. The whole
Yeah,
idea is to
makes more
bring
sense for
light
us
to the
to have
world,
it.
metaphorically, and this is at the darkest time of year, particularly in Vancouver, we get that. So we light up our house, and our neighbors love it, and it's very clear it's a Jewish house. There's a giant menorah in the we could be a Chabad house if you were driving. But my kids love it, and first of all, the blue and white lights, you get them. I buy them at the end of the season, so that, you know, you get the deal. And it's a blast. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to decorate the inside of your home with all the Hanukkah decorations you can. Make it a fun holiday, because part of this is that it has to go with the times and seasons of the world we live in. And the calendar of this, of our country in Canada is that everybody's having holiday parties and slowing down, and school's on break and vacations are happening. So, you've got to sort of take them while you have them. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, which are, and Passover for that matter, in their own, much more significant, but they're in conflict with the cycle of modern life. And still we do them. And there's something that's taught by that. When you keep your kids out of school because Rosh Hashanah is on a school day and they're here, you send such a strong message of the importance of their Jewish identity. When you give them a matzah sandwich because their spring break does not coincide with Passover, as it will this year, and they open up that matzah sandwich in front of all their friends, and their friends say, why are you eating on cracker? And they explain, you are anchoring their Jewish identity. Those are much more powerful things than, I don't think you're diminishing it in any way, but by, sort of embracing the idea of let's have a festive holiday at this time of year, and ours is Hanukkah.
A question.
Yes.
So it's not, to me, it's not doing this, doing that, it's this. It's Hanukkah bushes.
Right.
And calling it Christnukkah, and those things that I just.
Merry Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Yes. So I don't have to deal with those.
So, and that's on this list too. So let's talk about that. So I tell my wedding couples, and when I do premarital counseling, and we talk about the role of compromise, and we talk about the mezuzah, and how the mezuzah isn't like this and it's not like this. Because Hillel said it should be when we lie down, and Shammai said we rise up, or I think it's the other way around. And so they put it on a slant, and they leaned it towards the door. And I said, that's a beautiful example of compromise. Someone said this, and so we went like this. However, compromise doesn't always work out to be more just. In fact, sometimes half of one thing and half of another is a whole of nothing. Because you diminish too much, you dilute too much, and there's nothing left. I believe that's the case when you merge two simchas, two joyous occasions, be they Jewish or not. We try not to do two bar mitzvahs at the same time, because it's not enough for one kid and the other kid. It should be just focused on one. Or we try not to have a baby naming and a wedding or a blessing at the same time. Sometimes it's unavoidable. The Talmud says you shouldn't mix simchot. You shouldn't mix joyous occasions. Let them stand on their own. And I would extend that to Jewish and non-Jewish simchas or joyous occasions. So if in your home you celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas, and I want to talk about the boundaries we create in our home. But if it exists together in your home or in your extended home, I would really encourage you to make a distinct boundary between what is the Hanukkah celebration and what is the Christmas celebration. And on years like now, when the holiday overlaps, and I think the first night of Hanukkah, Christmas Eve is the first night of Hanukkah. So
Christmas Eve is the first candle.
Christmas Eve is the first candle.
Right. So it starts.
Right.
That's Sunday.
And that's a challenge. Unfortunately, it only comes up every 7 out of 19 years or whatever it is. There's actually a formula for that. I would look. You've got 8 nights of Hanukkah, and you've got only one Christmas Eve. So if you want to delay Hanukkah till the next night and you light 2 candles there, I'm fine. Your rabbi says that's fine. Everybody's got boxes at home of Hanukkah candles. They go like this, and there's candles left. There's not supposed to be any candles left when you're done. They only give you enough for every night. We all miss a night for one reason or another. If you need to front load the night you're going to miss, I think the greater value is to let Hanukkah be Hanukkah and let Christmas Eve be Christmas Eve. Don't do them together. It diminishes and dilutes them. That said, the other boundary that I think is important is what you do in your home versus what you do in somebody else's home. It goes back to that birthday analogy. Your best friend, you might host their birthday party at your home, but generally it's at their home. So if it's, Aunt Susie's Christmas party, then you go to Aunt Susie's for Christmas. And it's okay if your children get Christmas presents. Don't give them Hanukkah presents on that day, at that party. Don't have it be that at the at the Christmas party, they get Hanukkah. Let them get a Christmas present. That's fine. Santa wrapping paper is not going to ruin their Yiddishkeit. But the blending of these two things, I truly believe, will. The idea that I can be half of one and half of another isn't true. It's like being a vegetarian that eats meat. They are mutually inconsistent. Because if you drill down the theology behind it, forget about the cultural stuff. Remember, I started with culture. But if you drill down the theology behind it, one is celebrating the birth of a Messiah that has come, and the other holiday is celebrated by a people that is still waiting for the Messiah. And those are just really inconsistent ideas. So, again, you have to make your own choices, but I believe that you should be governed by the idea of clear and distinct boundaries. Don't have Hanukkah bushes. Don't have Christmas presents at Hanukkah time and Hanukkah presents at Christmas time if you can avoid it. Yes?
When we're talking here about celebrating Christmas, what kind of Christmas are we talking about? Like Christmas presents and lights, or are we talking about, what if people celebrate it religiously?
So again, I would say whatever those people need to celebrate Christmas, if your presence is part of their need, you can take your children to Christmas Mass, that's fine. Again, I believe that you are doing enough to create and anchor a Jewish identity that the exposure to a beautiful Christmas Mass is not going to suddenly take them over to the other side. So absolutely you go, but I would go again with the context, we're going to help Daddy celebrate his holiday. And this is where this conversation with your children is very important. They need to know that they are Jewish because you have chosen for them to be Jewish. If the answer is I'm half Jewish, and there isn't half. There's one or the other. And these are important distinctions that we teach our children. Not everything is blended. So if you've had that conversation with your spouse already, or you're in the process of that conversation that began before your wedding day. Every single study that is out there from both the Jewish world and the Christian world has shown that a clear religious identity is invaluable to children as they grow up because it travels with them. It's that power greater than myself that will guide them morally when they make decisions about appropriate relationships or what they get involved in or the values that they vote with later on in life and even at this point in life. The problem with being half of one and half of the other, again, it goes back to being a whole of nothing, is they're not going to really find a church or a synagogue that is half and half. And those that are out there, Jews for Jesus if you want, that's not what you want for your children. I don't like to disparage other religions, but Jews for Jesus in particular is a gateway into evangelical Christianity. It's funded by the Southern Baptist Church. It's not its own religion. And I don't think that's probably what you want for your children. You want them to be here or to be there. So I think that you can celebrate the holidays, just to try to answer more succinctly, I think that you can celebrate the holidays at the level, be governed by the non-Jew in the family. As long as that non-Jew is not trying still to win the battle of what is my kid. That has to be decided first. It has to be clear, our child is Jewish, or if, I don't think anybody here would be in this context, but, or our child is Christian. And then you observe it in that context. Questions where we are right now?
I also think exposing them to, a mass, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And if they know that they're Jewish, they can go and experience another culture. We all need to learn about other cultures. I think it actually enhances their Judaism.
And we know that sometimes the mystery of something, the mystique of it, is more of a draw than the actual thing. You know, if it's a midnight mass and they're 7, 8, 9 years old, they're going to be asleep during most of it anyways. But you know, that's not just to dismiss it out of hand. I think sometimes saying this is not for you, you can't go in, you can never see, you can never touch, you can never taste, only creates a desire to do more. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? It's not on the list, but I agree with what you're saying. So outside of school, if my kids get invited to a Christmas party, that's great. Go help them celebrate. They can help us celebrate. But at school, I find I have a problem with them doing Christmas stuff at school because it is a religious holiday, and I've explained it to my kids as one, so they know why we don't celebrate it.
Right.
So what do I say when they're making Christmas trees and they're making reindeer and?
Right. And that was on this list in one form or another as well. Look, my kids go to public school, we encounter it also. I mean, one response is to only send your kids into a Jewish environment. That's not the Reform way. There's the community day school here, and I support Talmud Torah and RJBS, but the Reform movement has always said that we live in the context of modernity, and that we can't put up walls. There were the old saying is there were locks on the inside of the ghetto walls before there were locks on the outside of the ghetto walls, and we would self-ghettoize so as not to come in contact with. So, I mean, it's interesting because I'm agnostic about the proper solution to this. When I was in Los Angeles, it was such a Jewish culture that when they did a holiday concert, there was nothing Christmas about it at all. I mean, I think they struggled to find songs, but they didn't even like throw in the had a little dreidel. It was just nothing. It was like winter, which didn't exist in Los Angeles, so it was a novelty. Here it's much different. We have told our children that they do not have to sing or participate in the holiday concert. They can have that day off. It's good to be a Jew. You can stay out that day. And they love that. And I think in some ways that has anchored a little bit more of their Jewish identity.
And the practicing for the concert? Sorry to interrupt.
So we say to them, look, it's not going to harm you to know these songs. Everybody else knows them. It's fine for you to practice. But if you don't want to stand up there and sing it, we're happy for you not to go to school that day, and we'll do something together fun. And that has turned it into a very positive. And they look forward to the holiday concert because they get a day off. I'm going to take them to Minion, but not. So that's been our response. It wasn't originally because we hadn't confronted it in Los Angeles as much. And finally this year, one of our children said to us, I just don't want to stand up there and sing. Even though they threw in, I had a little dreidel. And we've gone to the school and we've done latkes and we've done menorah. And one of our children doesn't want that either. He says it's embarrassing. And this is where you don't need to fight. Look, Hanukkah was about, we go back to the reason of the holiday, everybody being allowed to practice their religion as it was. I don't want to be an Assyrian who comes in and says with my Hanukkah, everybody sing my blessings and play my dreidel game. It's not their holiday. That's not how I live my Judaism, going out there proselytizing to others, certainly not through this holiday. So again, boundaries are good the other way too. It doesn't all have to be acceptance. It can be, we're not going to do that. Especially if it's on that level, your children are going to celebrate it. They get an extra day with you or grandpa or whatever. Let me come back to your list here. The money of the season. So there's wonderful ideas on how to sort of change the whole gift giving. This whole 8 nights of presents is just, it's just overwhelming.
Do you guys do it?
So we do. We're constantly, look, we are also a work in progress. I'm a rabbi. I didn't come with a handbook for how to raise your children necessarily. And truthfully, my wife is so much better at this part of it than I am, because I would just do whatever. But so what we've done is we've set aside certain nights. So they get one present from us. They get one present from one set of grandparents and one present from another set of grandparents. Sometimes my brother and sister remember to send my kids gifts. Sometimes I remember to send their kids gifts. So there's always at least 3. Right. And then we ask them to give a gift to each other, which they can make, or they can use their, they get allowance and they do, jobs in the neighborhood and stuff. They can use their money to do. So they make or they buy a gift for their siblings. One night we give a gift to the community, so we make meals and we go out to the downtown east side and we hand them out. My kids love doing that. We usually do one event that's a family gift. So we go to a Canucks game or we go to a movie. I think it'll be Rogue One this year and it might be early. We'll just do it. so that's a family experience, that's the present, and there's no other gift that night. We make one, we give one. Yeah, that seems to fill it in. And you can come up with other creative things. If you have good ones, let me know. But that's how we've done it. So, but they get one gift from us, but they have to give a gift to others too. Let's see, I can't read my handwriting anymore. So we talked about blending holidays, sharing family traditions. So, again, I think a lot of families I know that the ornaments on the Christmas tree, they've been passed down from generation to generation. They're like a Seder plate. They're like the Shabbos candlesticks that, Bubby took across the ocean to bring to the New World. And you can't just put those in the attic or in the basement. So the challenge is, what do we do with those if your non-Jewish spouse is the only one left that's kind of, managing this holiday in your family? And that's a tricky thing. If this is still how they wish to express their connection to family, and there's nobody else in the family that can host the family Christmas party, then you do it, because you do these things for people you love. And everybody knows that we're going to do this for Dad, because this is Dad's holiday, and Dad does stuff for us. And so there's a tree that goes up that one day. Okay, this wouldn't be my ideal. My ideal would be it's not in your home. But if that's unavoidable, then you do what it takes to make your marriage work. And you honor those things, again, with clear and distinct boundaries. There's not a Hanukkah next to that tree. There's not Jewish ornaments on that tree. You don't sing "I Had a Little Dreidel" and whatever Christmas song comes to mind. That is a distinct celebration. It has its boundaries, and when it's done, it's done. And hopefully that's acceptable to your spouse who's celebrating Christmas. Ideally, it takes place in somebody else's home, and you go and you celebrate with all the trimmings. In the 5 minutes that we have, because it's a long list and I really can't read much of my writing, is there one that you want to make sure that I touch on? Yes?
I have an unusual situation. My son married into a Muslim family a month ago, to my horror, but I've learned to accept them. They're beautiful people. They're from Albania, and I don't know what kind of greeting to give them at Hanukkah. But I'd like to do something, because they just sent me a gift, which is a photo of the bride and groom.
As far as I know, there's not, and I was sitting with a Muslim family last night at a Christmas party. My
At the start of a joke?
No. So my kids are in Purple Dragon, which is this martial arts thing, and we went to their Christmas party, and I'm wearing a yarmulke, and this woman is in a hijab sitting next to me, and our kids are in the same thing together. And the little bit of Arabic that I know, I said "Assalamu alaikum," and that was like I showed off. Which is really Shalom Aleichem, by the way.
Yes.
I should have asked her what holiday, because somebody had asked her, "Do you celebrate Christmas?" She said, "No, absolutely not." I don't think they have a holiday this time of year, but you should ask them.
They don't.
Yeah. So I think you can if they acknowledge the secular New Year, you can wish them a New Year.
Okay.
You can just say it's wonderful to celebrate our families together. And let me just speak to another point that's there, especially for those who have children or in-lawed children now. Your child is married a non-Jew, and you're the grandparent. And the worry is, what do I do? And that was on this list too. Embrace them. Welcome them. Invite them. Don't try to convert them. Just invite them to everything. And let the beauty of your family, first and foremost, and your family traditions, and Judaism, which underlies all of that, let that be its own commercial. So invite them to Seder. Invite them to break fast. Don't say, "Oh, she's not Jewish, she's not going to want to come." Invite them. Give them a reading at the Haggadah. Not the one about all the plagues or an Armageddon, all the Hebrew names in that one paragraph. Don't give them that one. But give them a reading. Let them participate, and they will most likely, either through their own voice or through your child's voice, set boundaries for you if they are uncomfortable. But I always start with welcoming and including, because that awkwardness, you're the host. You have to be the one that pushes through the awkwardness. Don't leave it for them to ask. They are like the child at the Seder, they don't even know how to ask. Another one or two questions that maybe I can hit on?
I have a question. So we've been talking about people who are either Jews by choice, married to Jews, or what have you, but what happens when the Jew is a secular, whatever that means, Jew, and the partner is not a Jew?
Right.
And that's why I asked the question about, well, we'll have a Hanukkah bush, or what have you, that people don't have this strong identity.
Right.
They think, well, it'll just happen, it'll just
So
go.
this is where I would have that conversation with them, and you can say my rabbi said or whatever, if that works, it usually doesn't. That we need to be clear and distinct, that everything has to be allowed to shine in its own light, and the blending of these things diminishes it. Now, it may be that we're headed that way as a society. I truly hope not. I really hope that we continue to have clear distinctions, and I don't mean in terms of the political correctness of things, but that look, Robert Frost said, "Good fences make good neighbors," right? That boundaries are important. They tell us who we are. So I would have the conversation with your child. I didn't raise you with a Hanukkah bush. I didn't raise you with Jewish menorahs on a Christmas tree. Do Hanukkah and do Christmas. Just do them differently. Do them separately. Maybe they're doing this together because they think that's what you want. And maybe they would rather just do one. And if it's not Hanukkah and it is Christmas, and that helps them have a happy family, my suggestion to you, as painful as it may be, is embrace that. Religion should never be a wedge. It says in Torah, "B'chai b'chem," live by the words of Torah. So what's implied is don't let them be the end of you. Religion should be sacrificed in this context at all times for shalom bayit, for peace in the home. I truly believe that. And I think that if your children are struggling with it, you need to articulate what your values are around that as well. Last one.
We don't have Christmas in our house, but my daughter still talks about it incessantly, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. I think it goes back to it's the world we live in. We're coming. It's the world we live in. It's the marketing of our world today. I think it's okay as long as you balance it out with, and you have, with a clear,